ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्याम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So we saw that in the final advice, the Guru said, bandhan and mukti both are the concepts of the intellect. They are not applicable to the self. And we also had seen the example of the sun appears to be covered by the clouds, and appears that clouds move away and the sun has revealed itself. Both these are for the person who is standing on the earth. Someone who rises above sees that there is no connection actually. For the sun, there is no sun never got covered, nor the sun got uncovered. So in the same way, bandhan and mukti, they are from our standpoint, from the Buddhist standpoint. So 474 also says the same point. Atastau mayaya kriptau bandhamokshau na chatmani nishkale nishkriye shante niravadye niranjane advitiye pare tattve vyomavad kalpana kutah. Ataha tau. Tau means bandhan and mukti, those two. Ataha tau mayaya kliptau. It is a projection of maya. So for the individual, it is avidya, and for the universe, we call it as maya. So when the totality, everyone feels I am bound, I want to be liberated, that is a projection of maya. And that maya functioning in the individual is called avidya. So because of our avidya, we think we are bound because we identify with the body. So atastav mayaya kriptav bandhamokshau na chatmani. So tau bandhamokshau, these two, bondage and liberation, are not for the atma. Atma is never bound, atma is never liberated. Then who is bound? The bondage is apparent to the jiva, the individual. So liberation also is for the individual. And what is that realization of liberation? That I was never bound. It is not that I was bound, now I got liberated. If someone says I was bound, now I am liberated, that is not real liberation at all. One realizes, say, I was never bound. It was a false projection. It was just not real. It is not that the snake has produced, the rope has produced the snake, and now that snake has gone back into the rope. That never happened. Snake never got produced. Simple. So, example given here is Nishkale, Nishkriye, Shante. That which has no parts, Nishkala. Nishkriya, which does not do any actions. Shante, which is absolute peace. Niravadya, which cannot be known through the usual modes of knowledge, the perception, the feelings, the thoughts. Niranjane, which is beyond any taint. So Nishkala and Nishkriya apply to the body. Shanta applies to the mind. Niravadya applies to the buddhi. Niranjana applies to the causal body, the vasanas. Which means the self is beyond body, mind, intellect, vasanas. Why? Advitiye pare tatve. Because it is non-dual supreme self. Example is Vyomavat, like the space. Kalpana kutaha. Where is that imagination of parts? The space cannot be cut into parts. Nishkala. Space is not seen to be doing anything, though everything is in the space. It is Nishkriya. Space is Shanta. Everything else has disturbances. Air, cyclones can come, gentle breeze can blow. There can be disturbances. Air, fire, we know. Water also, earth also. In all these, there can be disturbances. In space, no disturbance. Though all disturbance is appearing in space, but by itself, space has no disturbance at all. Niravadya. Space is not easy to know. Even because it doesn't have name and form. It doesn't have form. You can't see, hear, taste, smell, touch space. And Niranjane, how much ever one tries to, one has already done it. There's no question of trying. One has polluted the air, polluted the water, polluted the land. One has polluted. Fire, if one could, one would pollute that also. That right now is not possible. We don't know. Human being is a weird creature. He can pollute fire also. Maybe something comes up in future. No idea. But the point is these four get tainted. Space cannot be tainted. No matter how much the others get polluted and they all are in space, space is never tainted. Niranjanaha. Now space itself cannot be affected by any of these. How is Atma going to be affected? Because space is a projection of mind. Atma is the illuminer of the mind. So that's why Advitiye Pare Tatve. In that supreme non-dual self, the example of space is given so that we understand that if space can remain unaffected, then how is Atma going to be ever bound and then get liberated? That's a concept of the buddhi. It is not real. And that's why the next sloka, this is a very famous sloka. Sometimes it is there in other compositions also. Na nirodho na chotpattihi na baddho na cha sadhataha na mumukshurna vai muktaha ityesha paramarthata. I think Ashtavakra Gita also this comes. Sometimes it comes even, I think, in Mandukya Karika. I'm not sure about that, but many people quote this. Left, right, and center, this shloka is quoted. Context must be clearly understood. And there are many people who misunderstand this shloka and quote it in wrong context. This is highest state. Na nirodha, na cha utpatti. There is no creation, there is no destruction. First quarter negates creation this itself. No creation. The creation never happened. No utpatti, na nirodha. Destruction never happens. Then, see, destruction does not mean pralay. Destruction means change also. Change also is destruction. Every minute change is happening means earlier condition got destroyed. So creation, change, destruction, negated, first quarter. Second quarter, na baddho na cha sadhaka. There is nobody who is bound and there is no seeker also of liberation. Then na mumukshur na vai muktaha. There is no one who is seeking intensely liberation, nor there is somebody who is free. Iti esha paramarthata. This is the supreme state, the absolute state. Paramarthata is this. Now, where is this misquoted? When people don't want to do sadhana, when people want to tease somebody who is doing sadhana, when one wants to just escape from any problem, then one says there's no creation at all. So, what is the point? Many possibilities, one misquotes, one just indulges. Anyway, there is no creation, there is no bandhan, there is no sadhak. So, eat, drink, be merry. They're all foolish notions. One is a victim of the desire, and then one is saying, na nirodho, na cha utpatti, all that. This is paramarthata. This is not vyavahar level. This is paramarthata. This is absolute state, which is our true nature. If we have discovered that state, then there is no issue at all. Yogarato va, bhogarato va, sangarato va, sangavihina. One may be doing yoga, one may not be doing yoga. One may be indulging. One may be alone, one may be with many people. But important is what? Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam. One whose mind revels in Brahman. For that person, it doesn't matter what that person is doing. Because that person has already transcended all false identification and understood that this relative plane is not real, is abiding in that absolute state. That person, Nandati, Nandati, Nandati eva. That person truly rejoices in life. Our case is exact opposite. Yogarato va, bhogarato va, sangarato va, sangavihina, yasya samsare ramate chittam, rodati, rodati, rodatyeva. Go on crying because our chitta is attached in the samsara. Being attached to samsara, then if we say just in some mood when one comes saying one wants to quote philosophy or one wants to negate somebody's argument or one wants to justify some behavior, then one starts quoting na nirodho na cha utpattihi na baddho vai na sadhakaha. That is all. So this does not mean we should stop doing sadhana or we should not strive for liberation. This has nothing to do with that. Only through sadhana method we will come to the paramarthata. The best part is who is in this state does not need to say this. If somebody is saying that, that means one is still not come to that state. See, for somebody who is abiding in that state wants to convey the teaching, then one may say this. Or refute a particular argument, one may say this. That is a appropriate use of this. But for one's own behavior, one doesn't need to quote this. But one who is abiding in that state will not quote at all to justify any behavior or to justify any indulgence. One will not do that. So, how do we use this shloka? To understand and assert that my nature is that pure consciousness, I am not this, to rise above body identification as well as the notion that I am bound. The subtlest notion that we have seen earlier also. The subtlest notion is that I am ignorant. How can I be ignorant? My nature is Chaitanya Swarup Atma. Where there is sun, there is no darkness. So to think that I am bound itself is ignorance. Because in that the small I is what I'm identifying with. Sadhana is to disassociate with that small I and say, I am not this. This is a role. This is not me at all. Earlier we saw Shailusha, the actor example we saw. So detach from the body, mind, intellect. Understand that the world is an illusion. Start contemplating, having withdrawn from the world, from the BMI, contemplating on the self. Then one will come to Samadhi Avastha. In Samadhi Avastha, this will become real. This shloka is perfectly applicable in Samadhi Avastha. Why? Because in that Avastha, there is no Nirodha, na Utpatti, na Mumukshur, na cha Sadhakaha. None of this will be there. Na Baddho, na Sadhaka, none of this. What is in that state? Can't speak. Because that duality is gone. So simple point, Paramarthata is Advaita Sthiti. That can only be experienced in that state of Samadhi. In Yavahar, when I am there, I am transacting in the world. Then if I am not a Jivan Mukta, the second best attitude to have is I am a sadhak, I am a mumukshu. And live with the bhavana of the sadhak or a mumukshu consistently. Not sometime. Now and then I am a sadhak, I am a mumukshu. At other time I am a vishayi, I am a bhogi. Full time. Even enjoyment can be done by having sadhak attitude. Sattvic enjoyment, moderate enjoyment, all that. So this is the final advice of the teacher. So many shlokas he gave. Of all those shlokas, the last one is this, saying there is no bandhan, there is no mukti, which he has said earlier also. It's not that this is coming first time. This has come earlier also in Vivekachoodamani, but as a last message, this is what is said as an advice. This is Paramarthata, this is a supreme state. See, Gurudev in his second paragraph in this commentary, what has he written? Even liberation is not an occasion for glorification. See that. Even liberation is not an occasion for glorification. Why? Because that is our real nature. It is not that I was bound and now I have become liberated, so now I can celebrate. It is not like our graduation ceremony, you wear some coat and all that and then take that topi and throw high. I don't know why they do that. Some tradition from abroad, it must be 100%. In Bharat, they were never doing all that. Wearing some gown and then throw the topi and then jump and then take one picture and all that. So if somebody says, yeah, I got liberated and throws away some kamandalu and some mala and all that, what happened? Realize nothing. If a realized person does that, that person becomes a laughing stock. Why? Because that means he accepted bondage as real and then he is now accepting I got liberated in time. How? So he says even liberation is not an occasion for glorification. That is your real nature. In fact, you have not gained anything at all. All that you say is, what a fool I was. That is the point. Even that very foolishness, the Jiva only is not there, so who will tell I am a fool? But at the maximum, if one wants to say, what will one say when one was tormented by the dream as though, and suddenly one wakes up? What will one tell oneself? What a fool I was. That is not even real. I am thinking it is real, and now I am panting and sweating. One will only say that, I what a fool. Because what a fool I was. I never knew my own nature. There is nothing to be realized. You are that. This is the supreme truth at the moment of realization to the realized. Now again, these are limitation of language at the moment of realization. Realization is eternal. What moment? So this is the last advice. Now, see, earlier before the Guru gave the final advice, we saw the portion where the disciple has expressed the realization. Now the Guru is confirming that realization that you have realized. That is not because that disciple requires that confirmation. That is so that we understand that. That is all. And that is to bring that uh, closure to the questions of the disciple. Yes. 7 questions he had asked. And he came in that terrific state, surrendered to the teacher. Then the whole process we saw. And now liberated. 576. सकल निगम चूड़ा स्वांत सिद्धांत रूपम परमिदमति गुह्यम दर्शितम ते मयाद्य अपगत कलिदोषम काम निर्मुक्त बुद्धिः अपगत कलिदोषम काम निर्मुक्त बुद्धिं स्वसुतवद सुकृत्वाम भावयित्वा मुमुक्षुम्. In your book, in the last line, swasutavad sakrit, that ta, if it is a single ta, you have to put a line above that. It is sakrit tvam. So it is double ta actually. Sakrit tvam. So if there is no line on that ta, then you make that line, make it double ta. Yes, sakrit tvam. Now, sakala nigama chuda, this book is called Vivekachoodamani. Chuda is the jewel. Sakala nigama chuda. All the scriptures, the Vedic knowledge, the essence of that Vedic knowledge is referred to by this. What is the essence? Oneness of the Jiva with Ishvara. Jiva Brahma, Aikya. So, Sakala Nigama Chuda, Swanta Siddhanta Rupam. And it is not in the books. Book is only a means. It is inside, in the heart of a person who has purified the mind. The essence is in the heart. So the Guru says, I have taught you that essence. Swanta Siddhanta Rupam. Vedanta is not in the books. Book is a means. Vedanta is in the heart. And it is Bheda Anta. It is to destroy all the Bheda, duality. That has to be experienced internally. It is not outside. Param Idam, supreme knowledge this is. Ati Guhyam, very sacred and secret. Ati Guhyam. Why it is secret? Because only if the mind is purified can the mind experience this state. By Reading as many books one can read, one will come not 1 inch closer to the realization. It is purifying the heart. One teacher was asked, what does it take to realize? So the teacher didn't answer that time. And the student would ask the question, is some writer who goes on writing books after books and articles and blogs and whatnot, goes on writing. So the teacher, once when he was writing, he came and suddenly the teacher said, one realizes the truth in the white heat of meditation, not by making the paper black with your composition or filling the air with noise pollution. Means you can write as much, you can give talks as much. The teacher is telling all of us. What is the, if that is done as a sadhana is a different thing, but until one does not purify the heart and meditate, it is secret. It is a top secret. One may be an expert communicator, orator, one can go on quoting left, right, and center, so many arguments and counter arguments and scriptures and everything. Realization is not in any of this. It is inside. And this knowledge is actually, that's why a secret. It's an open secret. Though, so our masters didn't bother about it. Gave it to everybody because who is adhikari only will take it, will be able to receive it. It will not stay otherwise. If you remember, we have discussed earlier one example. The milk of a lioness cannot stay in any other vessel except a gold bowl. If you want to preserve the milk of a lioness, it will not stay in any other vessel. It will get spoiled immediately. In a gold bowl, it will stay. This knowledge is like that. In a pure mind, it will stay. Hence, it is a secret. No matter how many commentaries, how many books are available, it is still only in the heart of a realized person. And it is passed on also when the tuning happens with that realized person. It is not passed on through words. It's an intuitive understanding. So paramidam ati guhyam darshitam te mayadya. Now that has been indicated to you by me, revealed to you. The self has been revealed to you by me. Apagata kali dosham. And who are you? You are somebody who has overcome the kali dosha, cunningness, manipulation, greed, indulgence, immorality. These are all kali dosha. So kali dosha means that is called the yuga dharma. So we are in kali yuga. In kali yuga, this will be predominant. Kali itself means cunningness and manipulation. So he says, you are someone who has overcome this Kali dosha, meaning you have purified your mind. Kama nirmukta buddhi, and your buddhi is free from sense enjoyments and desires. Swasuta vad, just like my own son, I would have revealed to. In that way, to you who have been good performer of good deeds. Sukrit. So to you, bhavayitva mumukshum, because you are somebody who is an intense seeker of liberation. Like my own son, I have taught you this whole knowledge. Swasutavad asakritvam bhavayitva mumukshum. So that is the meaning. So disciple also has been uh, in a way complimented that you are somebody who has overcome Kali dosha, your buddhi is free from desires, you are a performer of good deeds. So intellectually, emotionally, action wise, the teacher says you are a fit adhikari, and to you, like a son, I have revealed this innermost secret, which is the essence of all the Vedas. And here it is that the disciple prostrates to the teacher next, expresses gratitude, and goes. So when he says darshitam, means it has been revealed, and because he is a student who is an adhikari, he has got it. And we also saw the expression of the student, which shows clearly he has realized the self. Iti shrutva guror vakyam prashrayena krita natihi satena samanugnato yayau nirmukta bandhanaha. Having heard the guru, iti shrutva guror vakyam, the words of the teacher, prashrayena krita natihi. The student bows down to the teacher with great reverence. Satena samanugnato, and having got his permission, yayau, he went. How? Nirmukta bandhanaha, freed from bondage. So that is another confirmation here that that disciple is liberated. So he prostrated and the disciple went. Acha, what happened to the guru? Guru also went. Guru Deva Sadananda Sindhau Nirmagna Manasaha Pavayan Vasudham Sarvam Vichachara Nirantaraha. Guru Deva Sadananda Sindhau. Guru is an ocean of absolute bliss. Nirmagna Manasaha. His mind ever revels in that state. Pavayan Vasudham Sarvam. Purifying this whole earth. Vichachara Nirantaraha. He goes about reveling in that bliss. He wanders on this earth and some seeker meets him. He gives the knowledge and that way shares the knowledge, and he spends his time in this way. So see this Vivekachoodamani. Guru was there, disciple came with all difficulties, problems, and sought the knowledge, surrendered to the teacher gave the knowledge, and both of them, they had this satsang. Then the disciple realized, disciple went his way, the teacher went his way. Over. Both are liberated. No, why could the disciple not stay with the teacher? For what joy? Teacher is free, he is roaming around the earth. Now the disciple has become another teacher. He will go around the earth and again he will share. Actively or by his presence, he will bless the whole world. So the Guru transformed the Jiva as though again into Brahma. From obviously Paramartha standpoint, there is no such Jiva who has become Brahman, but at a relative standpoint, we are saying. And that's why Guru is considered great. In what context? Greater than Parasmani, because Parasmani can transform the iron into gold, but Parasmani cannot transform the iron into Parasmani. Guru transforms the disciple into the self and creates as though one more Guru. It's like Parasmani creating another Parasmani. Now two Parasmanis. How many people will be blessed? So this is also to say, one is the glory of the Guru and other is to understand the aspect of detachment. The sambandha between the Guru and Shishya is for Jnana. And the Shishya was feeling bound. The Guru cleared his understanding, and the disciple realized the self. That's about it. Then Guru goes his way, disciple goes his way. Neither the disciple is saying, can I continue to stay with you? Nor the Guru is saying, no, no, you better stay here and take care of me. Nothing. One gone one's way, another gone another's way. Finished. That is detachment. Now, why is there anything wrong if the disciple stays? If the Guru has an organization and the disciple wants to stay and there is a possibility to stay and serve, that's a different matter. Either way, there is detachment. Whether one stays and serves, whether one doesn't stay and serve, either way, there is detachment is important. Otherwise, we get attached to the Guru. And if the Guru is a Kacha Guru, then that Guru also allows that attachment, and both the disciple and the Guru fall. That should not happen. So best is be detached, because that is the purpose. Otherwise, one left samsara attachment and got attached to the Guru, and that Guru also allowed that attachment to happen, and then both will fall. If the Guru is a realized person, that Guru knows how to be detached, and Guru will pull that disciple out of attachment if the disciple is available. If the disciple is not available, Guru will say, Tata, bye bye. You are not yet ready. Possibilities are many. What the Guru can do depends on the adhikara, what is good for the disciple, all that. But what is the crux? Crux is detachment. Nothing, no binding to the teacher also or to the student also. And here there is no if you see this shloka as such, the disciple has a lot of gratitude in the heart. It is said kritanati, prostrated with reverence, with gratitude. The Guru did not demand from the disciple, give me something. Nothing. What is the Guru Dakshina? Share this knowledge. And the Guru is sure that the person's presence itself is enough now. The disciple's presence is enough to purify the earth. And that disciple will reach this knowledge to many more people. One more heart got awakened. That's enough. The Guru doesn't want anything more. So the Guru didn't say give anything. The disciple also, he has gratitude in the heart. So the disciple knows that whatever I give is not going to be enough. The best way is share. Go on sharing this knowledge to as many people as possible and awaken. Wake up, awaken others. That's the motto of life. And in the sadhana process also we can apply this. Not only for the Siddha Avastha. Somebody who has woken up to anyway will help others to wake up. But all of us can apply this even during the sadhana process, that we serve people, try to bring this knowledge to maximum people as our sadhana, by our reflection, by our modes of sharing it. So swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. One's own study and then sharing. Because that is the only way to learn and speed up the evolution. Otherwise, there is a illusion that I know. When one starts speaking, sharing, then one understands, I don't know. I thought I knew. So Gurudev gave us that opportunity. Start a class. With some known people, start. As a sadhana. And take what you have already studied properly. Not some new text. Nobody is saying take a new text, absolutely. In the life, Bhari Govindam, Tattva Bodh, that scheme Gurudev has given. So one can start. So many of you have been studying for years. Now next, graduate to the next step now. Start a class. Then see the growth. Because one will have to prepare for the class. And why worry about, oh, what if I can't handle questions? Bring them to us. We will handle their questions. You try your best. If some question you can't handle, bring them to us. We also need a job after all. No, no, but if I don't know what they will think, that's the point. You are not that entity. So let them think what they are thinking. What is the problem? No, no, I don't have still clarity. Then develop the clarity. And don't think that only after getting full clarity, then one can take the class. Then class is not required. You will be in this Paramarthata, that absolute state one will be. That is only 100% clarity. Till then, there is no clarity 100%. But there is high level of clarity one can have intellectually. 50, 60, 70% clarity one has. So one should start, and as one takes that clarity, will keep increasing intellectually. That will aid the sadhana also. So now the disciple and the guru connection was this. The glory of the book is now explained in the last few verses. Ityacharyasya shishyasya samvadenatmalakshanam nirupitam mumukshunam sukhabodhopapattaye. Iti acharyasya shishyasya samvada. The conversation between the disciple and the student, disciple and the teacher. Through that, what has been pointed out? Atma Lakshanam, the nature of the self has been pointed out. Nirupitam. To whom? Mumukshunam. The Shishya was a mumukshu, a seeker of liberation, intense desire for liberation that Shishya had. For what purpose? Sukha bodha upapattaye, to experience that state of realization, absolute bliss. Sukha bodha upapattaye. So this is like a formal expression that this is what has happened. Like at the end of the course, one gives a formal report. This many students had enrolled, this many survived. Today this many are completing the course. These are the texts that have been taught. Like that, Vivekachoodamani is giving a formal explanation that till now this is what has been done. These last two verses are really the glory of the text. Hitamidam adriyantam vihita nirasta samasta chitta doshaha bhava sukha virata prashanta chittaha shruti rasika yatayo mumukshavo ye. Those who are mumukshus, those who are intense seekers of liberation, what should they do? Hitam idam upadesham. This upadesha of the Guru is most beneficial. Adriyantam. They must consider this with respect, reverence, and internalize it. Vihita nirasta samasta chitta doshaha. Put forth the efforts in the prescribed way, vihita, prescribed way, to destroy all the dosha of the chitta. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. One should destroy all of them. Because that is the real means. Otherwise, the chitta is filled with all dosha. How much ever I study, that first line will make no difference to me. Because chitta is filled with dosha, the knowledge doesn't seep in. So intellectually gain the knowledge, understand, get clarity, side by side, purify the mind. Then bhava sukha virataha. Externally withdraw from indulgent ways, especially the dependencies, attachments, where we are bound by this. Then one should remove those. Bhava sukha virataha. Prashanta chittaha. Make the mind quiet. through upasana, sadhana, seva, prashanta chitta. Shruti rasika yatayaha. Such minds are the one who are yatis, who one meaning of yati is sannyasi, other meaning of yati is one who puts effort, yatnam karoti, for liberation. Such minds which are pure, which are withdrawn from the worldliness, which have developed the clarity as the Shraddha for the Guru, they will revel in the knowledge of the Shruti. They are called Shruti Rasika. Rasika means somebody who is an enjoyer of that. So, enjoyer of art, enjoyer of music, they are called Rasikas. Poetry, like that, Shruti Rasika. They take delight in that scriptures. So, what is the glory of this text? That such advice for each of these steps, this text makes it possible. Gives clarity about the various aspects of the self, not self, bandhan, mukti, all that. Gives also the means of sadhana, that also we saw. Then helps us to cleanse the mind of the vikaras, helps us to withdraw from the sense objects, and brings more and more joy. Having studied Vivekachoodamani, the fundamental concepts of Vedanta will become clear and strong. What is given in Tattva Bodh is elaborated in Atma Bodh, is presented in Vivekachoodamani in the most elaborate way. All the three are prakrana granthas, found fundamental texts in Vedanta, which will introduce us to terms and terminologies, concepts, and ideas of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. So by itself, this one book itself is enough to realize the self. We don't need further more and more books. But somebody who wants to study the Gita or the Upanishads, then this is a very good foundation for it. Hence, Shruti Rasikaha. So the book has given to us all these. And also it is a final reminder to us that this is what we have to do with the book. Identify what all I can do. And Gurudev has put down those in 6 points also, which are given in this shloka. So the sadhana method also is there along with the glory of the text. Now the last one. Samsaradhvanitapabhanukirana prodhuta dahavyatha hinnanam jalakankshaya narubhuvi bhrantya paribhramyatam atyasanna sudham buddhim sukhaparam brahmadvayam darshayan yesha shankara bharati vijayate nirvana samdayini. So here he says, samsara dhvani tapa bhanu kirana prodhuta dahavyatha. One who is getting scorched in the fire of samsara. Example given here is like the scorching rays of the sun. Bhanu kirana prodhuta dahavyatha. Samsara dhvani tapa. The three tapas in the samsara. Adi Daivik, the cosmic forces, disturbances from cosmic forces. Adi Bhautik, from the beings around us, and Adhyatmic, internal disturbances. One who is tormented by these three, like the scorching rays of the sun. Bhanu Kirana Prodbhuta Dahavyatha. Khinnanam Jalak Kangshayam Marubhuvi. In the desert, one is seeking, one is thirsty, one is seeking water, and one sees the mirage, and one thinks that there is water there, and one is deluded, one runs behind it. One gets disappointed. Khinnanam. Same way we run in the world, thinking pleasure is there, happiness is there. When we get there, then we say, for some time I'm happy a little bit, but after that, gone. Even that happiness is because I have projected it. It is not real. See, an example of that desert, when a person reaches the spot of the mirage, one knows that there is no sand, there is no water, there is only sand. One doesn't say, ki, chalo, I will take this sand as water. One realizes there is no water at all. It's just sand. One is totally disappointed. Khinnanam. In the same way, when we in the world go behind some pleasure, some person, some object, some situation, the difference there is in the desert, there is no water. Here we feel there is some pleasure and we are as though enjoying it also. It's like taking the sand, thinking it is water. So we are enjoying also. And which is what keeps us bound. That's why earlier shloka says, Bhava Sukha Virataha. One has to withdraw from that. Otherwise, the senses are going to keep getting engaged in that. More and more temporary pleasures. So there is no pleasure out there. It is a pleasure which is disguised. It is a pain which is disguised as pleasure. That's what Buddha said. Every pleasure is pain in disguise. At that moment, it appears to be pleasurable, but even at that time, actually, it is a challenge for the body also, for the mind also. Plus, it leaves a craving. So many points we have seen earlier. It is actually it is a painful state, but we don't recognize. That's why mumukshutvam doesn't come. Imagine the condition of this person who is in the desert. Both these examples which are given are to understand what is affliction, what is bondage. When water is not available in the desert, one is roaming like anything, one has no energy, one thinks of the mirage as water, one runs towards that. In that running, one has already exhausted so much energy. But the hope is there is water. But when one goes there, there is no water. How dejected that person would feel. Life after life, one has done that. Hoping for permanent happiness in the temporary world, one has got dejected, disillusioned. But the sad thing is, one still is not withdrawing. One still has a hope. If not this, that will have. If not that, something else will have. If not this object, some other object. If not this place, some other place. One keeps on trying. Because many times one doesn't know that one is seeking permanent happiness. And temporary pleasure is not going to satisfy. So one keeps trying new ways, new places, new things. Which to some point one will do and one has to do to actually understand it is not there. Not intellectually just information. One has to try it out. That's why Grahastha Ashram is given. That live, power, pleasure, prestige, popularity, get everything and see for oneself. There is nothing here, nothing. No sara at all. Meaning there's no essence in samsara. It is samyak sarati, goes on slipping. One can't catch anything. So then, when one understood that, for such people, atyasanna sudham buddhim sukhakaram. This text is like a great nectar that one has found. One was searching water in the desert, but instead of water, one found nectar. Atyasanna sudham buddhim sukhakaram, most delightful. From that desperate state to the delightful state one comes when one comes to Vedanta. Why? Brahmadvayam darshayan. Because the text reveals to us our blissful state, which is Brahman. So the word should be darshayan. After here, you have to put half na, darshayan. And let that half line remain because the word is not complete. Darshayanti becomes a complete word and esha. So that is sandhi, darshayanti esha. So just put the after here, put one half na and let the line be there in case it is not there in your book. So this text written by Shankaracharya, Shankara Bharati, Vijayate, may that text be glorious in destroying our tapa, our sorrow and suffering, and nirvana samdayini, grant us liberation. That is the most blissful state. So from a desperate state to a delightful state, this text will bring us. That is the glory of this text. And how strange it is that people think that if we come to spirituality, we will become disinterested, boring, dull. From desperate to delightful, Vedanta brings us to that state. But we have our false notions. Somebody who is in the desert holding out a jug of water and saying, "Come and drink this." Person says, "No, no. How can I come and drink that? That is such a boring state. That is not going to quench my thirst. You are telling me withdraw from running and come here to drink. I am interested in running. Okay, run. I am seeing so much water there. I don't want you. I am going there. Okay, go. No problem." After getting exhausted, one will say, "Can I come?" Ah, welcome. That time nobody will make an ego issue. That's the glory of Vedanta. Nobody is going to say, "I called you that time, you didn't come." Whenever one turns, Bhagavan is there, Guru is there, Shastra is there to say, "Welcome, come back." Because it's our true nature. How can we deny that? So they wait patiently. Bhagavan waits or not. Guru also waits patiently. Life after life, sometimes the Guru also waits. The disciple is running in the samsara. And the Guru helps the disciple also in some ways to get vairagya. Then the disciple comes, learns. Again, the disciple is got in samsara. So Guru waits. Life after life sometimes. That's why Guru Shishya Sambandha in some ways is life after life because the Shishya takes more time. Now, what about the Guru? Will the Guru be bound by till then? No. Guru is already realized. So Guru and Ishvara are one. So that Sambandha continues. Wherever and whenever the disciple requires it, Ishvara will manifest as the Guru and guide. So that is what the text concludes by saying that from desperate state to delightful state, this text will take you and provide liberation. That's the glory of Vivekachoodamani. It started with Jantunam Nara Janma Durlabham. Most precious is the human birth. And it ends with Nirvana Sukha. The last word is Nirvana Samdayini. This book is Nirvana Samdayini. It will give Nirvana. So what is the objective of human life? Get Nirvana. What is the means? Vivekachoodamani. The knowledge. This is presented in Gita, Upanishads, etc. So the knowledge is Nirvana Samdayini. So that concludes our text. We will chant the first shloka again as a reminder to us that we must continue to reflect on this book and live by the knowledge given here. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. We express our gratitude to the whole Guru Parampara and to the Supreme Lord. And this was our sadhana to reflect on the Vivekachoodamani. So we offer it at the feet of the Lord and the Guru Parampara. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ तत्सत् ब्रह्मार्पणमस्तु ॐ तत्सत् चिन्मयार्पणमस्तु. And my gratitude to all of you also. Thank you for sustaining through Vivekachoodamani and consistently attending so many verses, 581 verses. From 2018 we started, and here we are concluding in 2020. So every month, 5 days, we have been able to reflect by grace of the Lord, blessings of the Guru Parampara, and all of you who have been a wonderful audience, seeking consistently. So my gratitude to all of you also. Thank you very much.